this summer and this spring are some of the nicest summers and springs I've ever seen. I've been noticing a lot of butterflies. Ones I've never seen before. And not for not watching. No, this island of Manhattan. It rests square in the middle of the Hudson, in the times, in his history. We're all like flying on that same trip. And if you're lucky, you won't always talk about trying to pay rent. Or the fact that, you know, why isn't they calling me after 2 dates? What happened? Or, you know, Jesus Christ, who stole my weed? Oh shit, I smoked it. I met Fly through the whole ABC No Rio Matthew Courtney day. She came with a whole posse from the Purple Institute, a posse of really hot-looking posse. And so Fly and all these other Torontonians and Canadians and Canucks and they started this sort of interaction between the super duper under the underground. And she stuck around. And we've done many adventures together, Death Valley days. We actually were in Death Valley. We sat underneath the beautiful stars of the, I think it was the Mojave Desert we were in. And then they said, well, it'll come out of the sky, and first you'll hear it, and then you'll hear the echo of the sonic boom, and it'll seem like a brick flying through the air. And then it will click into glider mode, and then it'll come down and land, and that'll be it. Wow, we went to see the space shuttle land. That was exactly what happened while we traveled. And she was information. John Dolan is going to now grace the stage. Thank you.
You're not so tall as him. If I can read this, some pretty fucking lines. me go like this. Yeah, possibly. So that's like when Fly asked me to do the PEOPS, and I thought it was pretty cool. The whole thing was, I didn't want to say anything because I hate backstories, and I'm pretty blind, so I can't read stuff. So initially, it was supposed to just be all me going like, I don't know. So that's what it was supposed to be. I do like drinking though. So let me do this to the best of my ability. Blah, blah, blah. I'm an asshole. I'm a jerk. I know I'm an asshole. I'm a well-meaning asshole. And knowing is half the battle. But I do mean well. I like working with shows, supporting the bands. I like supporting the scene, and that is, that's really all I have to say. This is weird. I don't have back history to talk about. Back history is history. What's going forward today is what's going on. It's important that certain groups start acting together more. Too much divisive fighting, blah, blah, blah. The scene's gotta unite. I'm kidding. We want it to work together. Doesn't it sound like 7 seconds? I'm a really boring person when I get put under pressure. To say something off the cuff, you know, it's the truth. I'm pretty damn funny though when I don't have to. And I really don't feel too strongly about anything. Just put likes to do crosswords, listens to TV, doesn't watch. Yeah, let me see. Does sound, plays music, dog that bites everyone, lives at C-Squat, yada, 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 hates house meetings, which I have to go to after this, believe it or not. Yeah, they're fun, man. It's just like, wow. Meetings and I hate being mad at people. Yeah, that really sucks because I can't help being mad at people. It's one of my stupid traits that I have, man. It's like, it's the way I am, cynically and pessimistic, yet insanely optimistic. Let's see. Yeah, blah blah blah. Likes to write. Na. So like, and Scruff's here, and he got me the shirt that says it best. It's like a Monty Python skit, where it's like the Black Knight is eviscerated, and his arms and legs are cut off, and he's just laying there, and he's a stump, he's just a head, and he's like, come back and fight me, y'all! And it's just like, it's merely a flesh wound. And that's, to me, it's my theory in life. Thank you, John Dolan.
All right. All right.
John Dolan. So, I'll keep the show moving because I was told by Fly, if you're going to read today, make sure that you keep it to their one page. Don't because I want to get someone on, blah, blah, blah. So, our next
We have a curfew.
person here on the stage is L.E.S. Jules. Give him a big round of applause.
We should have a moment of silence for Holly Flanagan from the Cro-Mags, who flipped out because he should have done a CBGB's tribute and wound up stabbing 2 other members of the Cro-Mags and canceled the CBGB's tribute. So let's have a moment of silence for Holly. Now, I'm going to read you something because today's my father's birthday. I don't give a fuck about my people, sorry, Fly, but you can read it in her book. Buy it. I've seen heaven and lived in hell and all its sorrows. I've lived good and I've lived bad. I don't know where the fuck I'll be tomorrow. I'm never as lonely can be. And the angels and the Lord. That Lord finally fucking set me free. And in the darkness, I see hope and sanity. Broken homes and broken bones. The booze, it was always there. The bikers and punks, the whores and the drunks, and the junkies and crackheads in their fucking lair. You fought your war, Dad, and I fought mine. Drinking and drugging and killing time. For Nam was your hell, booze and needles was mine. I'm a veteran in my own war, motherfucker. And Dad always said, life is just a game. I learned to con, manipulate, and liar was my name. And then God came and showed me the way. Angels always with me, guiding their lost fucking stray, me. Guiding their lost stray. And I see signs every day, whether good or bad. And I'm living hard and I'm living fast for that sin. That sin was all I ever fucking had. That sin was all I had. And the gutters and the violence, the eternally lost and alone. Drunk and high, numb and smiling. I'm a dog without a fucking bone. A dog without a bone. The punks and the drunks and the ghosts of Tompkins Square. I drank, drunk. Shot drugs to get nowhere. The hospitals and jail and still craving the booze. But how I miss you, Dad, for I wasn't born to lose. And we all wear masks to cover up our lost and lonely cries. Nigga, I wear the fucking Joker's grin and hide behind his guise. And I just want to rise from the ashes of my sins to smile and love and taste the fucking spring again and bleed my roses and let them bloom and scar with beauty my invisible wounds. What the hell else I got here? Always seeking I know not what until it is found, yet it was always there. The signs were all around. You fought your war and I fought mine. And we're both veterans now, till the day I fucking die.
All right. Yeah.
Got one more just scrawled out. This one ain't as good, but it's just a quick one. Been gone 5 years and it seems like yesterday. Now it's just John Wayne and me. Where have all the real men gone? Where have they? Where have all the real men gone? That's all the time in the world till it's too late. And then time stands still. Death and piss and fire. And Lord, give me my pill. Happy birthday, Daddy. Happy birthday to you. I'm sorry I never turned out right. Although I was always good enough for you. Well, here I am with venom and fire and fury, nigga. Life can change in an instant, fast and furious and brilliant. And I'm just bad, so bad. So leave me the fuck alone.
Yes, Joel.
Sorry about the cursing.
What the fuck, man?
Being yourself. Just being yourself.
It's like when I was on in the corner of 10th and A in the Tompkins Square Park. They had that
Hey, Fly, this is for you.
softball field, and we were playing a little pickup game. And
I tell you, motherfucker, don't let me hear you fucking swear. You fucking swear one more time, kid. I'm gonna fuck you up.
yeah, that's the way to tell them not to swear.
That was you?
Yeah, that was me. Hey, how you doing? So, everybody knows Fly, obviously. We've seen her around the neighborhood as the neighborhood shifts and changes into new things, as it always has. I think by the time Fly moved in, it was still in that kind of like taking 30 years to change phase. And then, boom, it was in the 6-week changing, neighborhood, gone. Different kind of erasure. You brought in the whiteout. Our next performer, our next reader, our next person is Margarita. Please give her a round of applause.
Margarita.
Hi, I'm Margarita, Shalina, and I'm gonna read saw was closing out the last show, and Joey Huberman came on stage and sang with them. Thank you. Came on stage and sang with them. Later, I literally walked into his stomach in the upstairs area, and I liked it. I still miss having Joey Ramone around the neighborhood. I was born in Leningrad in 1973. We moved to the Lower East Side in 1981. It was a lot different than it is now. I was 7 years old. We weren't allowed to cross Delancey. As little kids, it was dangerous for us to go north. When we got to the village, in our early teens, it was a revelation. Between the shows and Unique Boutique and Tish and Snooki still had Manic Panic open on St. Mark's Place and Tompkins Square Park. We discovered drugs and we got served in bars and started dyeing our hair. We were 15, me and my derelict bum friends. Some of their parents were drug dealers, but it was okay because back then it was like entrepreneurial self-employment. It was weirdly wholesome. They weren't dealing crack, and it was almost like you were safer because a lot of people were plugged into pot and they would look out for you on the street. I went to LaGuardia High School of Music and Art. I used to draw. That was one of the first things I did obsessively, and writing poetry. Nowadays, I work as a translator. From about 1997 to 2005, I lived in Maspeth, Queens. Coming back to the Lower East Side, I saw the change in toggle time. When you don't experience change gradually, you can appreciate more how radical it is. And now living here is a matter of dodging packs of NYU gazelles and wildebeest. Now I put henna in my hair and go to Brooklyn for shows, and I still indulge moderately and responsibly. It's hard to leave New York City if you make art. You might not get back in. I'm going to read a quick poem. This is kind of like an old poem, but it's like a New York poem that I took up a while ago. Times Square. The city is an onerous lover prone to drunken fits of homicidal rage. This night a holocaust of transparency, disappearing into the alleys, wide open mouth, secret societies of the heart's obsessions, plot treacherous love scenarios involving rib cages. Hail ballad of street discourse, night is singing me a mainline song, glossy muses wander and gossamer bird bones, the whispered conversations of mind, revived at corners in which breed the hummingbird's secret police, lost within the Cheshire carnival of the Port Authority, Cassandra's nocturne curse of syringe ambience, lying in anger lays release, tongue cut by peccadillo, our streets bleed fluency in such a violent language, air, water, earth, fire. I see Vishnu in the eyes of passerbys, Bacchus in their lips, his moon, sign, heart, and mouth navigate as I secure the gates of my city. No one enters and I remain alone. Hail Sodom's opulent gutter madness, reverie to the mad girl moonlight, ranging as Cassandra is silently singing, kaleidoscope melting and night's neon light shifting. It is all unchanged, that is, it is all as before. The postcard reads, my dear, dear Vishnu, oh how I miss you. This neon weather menaces all, wholesome feeder my stance in the halls, dogs consume the ravaged body of summer, rainbow shouts over the howling echo. Within this place I have transcended night, impossibly senseless, inebriated, and I am still in love with you. Thank you.
All right.
Margarita. Wasting away. Let's see, we got a couple of folks out here, right? And how many people here have been in the Lower East Side for 30 years?
Getting there.
How many people are on Medicaid now?
4 more days.
next reader is Ron Kolm.
I did kind of the opposite. I saw how much space Fly was giving you, so I tried to tell as much of a story as I could, and by the time she was getting to the end, I was like really kind of running through it. For me, what changed my life was Vietnam. I definitely made up my mind that I was not going to get in a position to shoot anyone or kill anyone, so I volunteered for alternative service and got sent to Appalachia. It was 1969. The woman I was with at that time and I got placed in a small community of rundown tar paper shacks. It's called Moppin' Row. This community got only cold running water from the city and no sewage or garbage pickup. We had an outhouse and I knew I'd made it to an interesting place when snowflakes falling between the wood slats landed and melted on my knees while I was taking a dump. Because I was a community organizer, it was impossible to get a straight job when I finally moved to New York City in 1970. I was considered a radical. The only way I could get money to pay the rent was to sell my library and bits and pieces to the Strand bookstore. Every time I went there, Fred Bass, the owner's son, would offer me a job. Starting salary was $60 a week gross, and you had to work Saturdays, so I put off working there as long as I possibly could until I finally caved on account of hunger. At that time, I was living in a basement apartment in Brooklyn that used to flood every time it rained. At the Strand, I worked with Patti Smith, Richard Hell, and Tom Verlaine. I saw television the first night they played CBGBs when Richard Hell was still in the band. Metal fixtures and copper pipes are because they nodded out, and landlords would do it to collect on the insurance. Whenever we heard sirens, we would walk out of the bookstore to watch the fire trucks head east towards the pillars of smoke. People would come into the bookstore and steal anything that wasn't nailed down. One night I was in the store alone and this small guy comes out of the office in the back wheeling a manager's bicycle towards the front door. When I told him to put it back, he walked over to the register and stabbed the knife into the back of my hand where it got stuck, so I had to let go of it. He just stood there, totally drunk. He didn't have another thought in his mind. I could have killed him. We had a metal club stashed under the counter for situations just like this. He'd really given me the perfect excuse to use it, but I realized once again that I really wasn't into hurting anyone, so I told him to split. Can I read one other short piece too?
Yes, yes.
There's a little tiny magazine, and if anyone wants copies, I've got a bunch in my bag. It's Public Illumination Magazine. This is from roughly the same time period. It's called A Bad Day. It's really small print. I blew out the front tire of my bike trying to hop it over the curve at 6th Street and Avenue C. Fucking shit, I muttered, dismounting to check out the bent spokes and twisted rim. I'd have to walk my busted bike back to my apartment building and carry it up 4 flights to my cluttered railroad flat where I tried to fix it. Breeze, a guy with a brown paper bag over his forearm, hissed. I got a gun in here that says I now own some wheels. Take your hands off the bike and walk away and don't look back or I'll fucking kill you. I returned to my apartment to find the door kicked in and the lock smashed. All my good stuff, such as it was gone. I walked over to Avenue A and bought a new lock and a sandwich and then went back to my building. As I entered, a voice called out from the darkness under the stairwell, "Stick 'em up." "What the fuck?" I said. "I just got robbed. I got nothing left." "What's in the bag?" the voice asked. "A new lock and a sandwich," I answered. "Hand 'em over," the voice said. "Can I at least keep the sandwich?" I asked. "No," the voice answered.
Stick 'em up, give it up. Give me a biker. What are you gonna do now? What are you gonna do now? What are you gonna do now? Our next reader's a special surprise guest, Hetty Jones.
Yeah.
Okay.
thank you. You know, I'm so delighted to be here, and thanks to Fly for doing this whole thing. And she made me so much prettier than I really am. It made me really happy. Yeah, I was born in Brooklyn in 1934. Oh. We went to live in Queens when I was 7, and I lived there until I was 17. Then I went to college in Virginia. I studied drama. I have a BA in dramatic arts and speech. Who gives a shit? I started writing in college, terrible poetry and essays. I just had a desire to express myself. I wrote some plays too, musical comedies. After college, I came back to New York right away, thank goodness. I had been in Virginia before Brown versus Board of Education, the act that outlawed segregation in public schools. So in the fall of 1955, I came to New York and I landed on 116th Street. I was going to Columbia to get a master's degree, but that didn't last too long. I was tired of school and I wanted life. I was working in an interesting place, the Center for Mass Communication. It was part of Columbia University Press. I was hired as a receptionist, but as soon as they found out I could write, they got me to write their newsletter. I was 21 years old with a job as a writer, and I just thought that was the best thing in the world, but I didn't like Uptown. And a guy in a band that I met and was hanging out with said, "Why don't you come downtown and live in the Village?" Then Columbia closed the CMC, so I went to work for a guy who had a magazine called The Record Changer, a jazz magazine. I got my own apartment on Morton Street. One day at the Record Changer, I was left to interview an applicant for the job of shipping manager, and that man turned out to be Leroy Jones, whom I eventually married. We had a magazine we published together called Yugen, a poetry magazine that featured most of the Beat and New York School writers. I began writing in the mid-60s and published my first book in 1971. Since then, I've written 22 more books and published stories in magazines, reviews, and newspapers, and have read my work everywhere. I've taught in universities, libraries, prisons, and community centers in the hope of inspiring young women to lead independent and satisfying lives. Now, I'm a senior citizen, but my granddaughter says, "No, you're not a senior, you're my granny." I'm actually, my birthday is a week from tomorrow, and I'm going to be 78, but
What, should you be dead at that age?
We've never met anybody who's 70.
Is that what you're rooting for?
When I was 77, as I still am, I wrote a poem called 77 in 7-Eleven. And I never had a chance to read it to anyone because I forgot all about it. So here it is, and this is my opportunity. I am so happy to be here. 77 in 7-Eleven, which sevens to celebrate? The days of the week, the phases of the moon, the 7th inning stretch, the 7-year itch. Praise the heart's 7 compartments, the brain's 7 divisions. Sail the 7 seas to see the world's 7 wonders? Or does lucky 7, its root the word for full or complete, tell me that a double means I'm done? At 77, am I on my way to 7th heaven? If so, before I go, I hope to have, come 7, come 11, a few more pleasant sojourns with my favorite of those 7 deadly sins. Thank you.
Oh, man. Catch her. Join us and take you to the streets. Bang a drum, ring bells, ding, 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 ding. it's not right. Join us. You know that it is not fair. How could it be fair? Take it to the streets. Why do you just sit there? You know they don't care about you. You know they hate you. You know there are less of them and there are more of us. You know the taxes are wrong. How can you say the taxes are right? It's time for a revolt. It's time to send a message. We will not pay this sugar tax. Send a message to King George. Our next performer is Maggie Wrigley. Please give it. Wrigley? Well, oh, I see what the W are. Maggie Wrigley, welcome please to the stage, Maggie Wrigley.
Hey everybody. Everybody here tonight is amazing, and
Yay. That was amazing.
except for me.
I'm sorry, you'll have to leave the stage.
Thanks. Yeah, everybody's stories are so fantastic, and the books are amazing. And, you know, Fly's doing this incredible project and history, and you know, everything's supported. But Hetty Jones, you know, how lucky are we? That's just fantastic. Happy birthday. So, this is my PEOPS that Fly worked with me. She's a terrific editor. I was born in Brisbane, Australia, and left in the early 80s to travel the world, so I thought. And I got to New York in 1984. And once I got here, I immediately knew that this was where I wanted to be. It was beautiful, mayhemic, mad, dirty, dangerous. There was so much freedom in one place. It was just fantastic. It was, you know, everything a kid could want. I lived in Chinatown and Brooklyn and Harlem. I came to Bullock Space on the Lower East Side in 1987. It was a friend who'd slept on our couch when he was homeless who told us there was a space available. So we came to the meeting, me and my boyfriend. It was freezing outside, and there was an empty space, so they let us move right in. An empty space with no plumbing or heat, and extension cords running to the lamppost outside. We started working on the building with the other squatters in our own space on our own time, mostly weatherproofing to survive the winter. And rubble. It seemed to multiply. You could carry out 10 buckets, and then when you came back, there'd be 30. We had one toilet for the whole building, and we took turns filling multiple buckets from the hydrant so we could flush it. In the winter, we'd have to break the ice in the buckets just to pour them out. The fire department would change the locks on the hydrants all the time to try to stop us getting water. And Paul Castucci, bless his heart, would forge a new tool every time so that we could keep opening it. Then we decided to upgrade our electrical connection from extension cords to the lamppost, and instead we went down the manhole. There were only a couple of people who were skilled enough or brave enough to go down there and make the actual connections. One was Michael Schenker.
Yeah!
He pretty much powered on all the spots on the Lower East Side. A lot of our enemies back then, the city, the cops, some non-profit organizations, accused us of speculating and profiteering on the buildings. But we fought them on the streets, we fought them in the courts, and we saved all these buildings. And a lot of these buildings have become permanent low-income housing in this neighborhood, and they would have been lost otherwise. And I'm very proud of that mad, dysfunctional, crazy family that we made. I put my hand up for 30 years, but I just did the math, and it's 28, but you'll have to carry me out. They'll have to carry me out. Feed for us.
I'm sorry, but we have the results of your test. You'll have to leave for cheating. So in the time that I've been in New York City, I moved in New York City in '85. I'd been sort of 84 a little bit, but I really moved in 1985 to Clinton and Houston and Avenue, then St. Mark's between 1st and A, and then A between 11th and 12th, where I've resided ever since.
Should I sit there?
And in that time, the Hawks returned to New York City. And I think it was like 1990 that they came back. And they had said, well, they've been gone since 1968. You know, these Hawks. And then we have our friend Tommy Hawk, who shows up in Tompkins Square Park. Every once in a while, some freaking owl appears, or some other kind of raptors, and there's a little... and the rats. And then, luckily, the city, you know, in all their glory of fixing up Tompkins Square Park a couple of years, decided, you know what would be really good is to let the rats really expand their operation. I actually used 311. Hi, 311, how can I be of service? Yeah, I just saw 500 rats from 7th Street to 10th Street on the ground in parcels of 20, 10, 8, at the same time, you know, cavorting with the squirrels. So, think you do something about that? Oh yes, we're working on that. Oh, but then if you walk around the park and talk about, well, you know, the reason that the rats are there is because, well, they don't want to put down poison because it'll kill the hawk. And where did you get that information? Well, he told me, she told me, he told me, she told me.
Hey, look, it's a hawk.
Ah, rip, tear.
Oh, wow, that's so pretty, ripping the eyeball out.
Our next performer is Sparrow. So please.
Sparrow follows the hawk.
I was born.
No heckling! Come on, guys. It's a poetry.
Wait, listen to that heckler telling you not to heckle. Please. I was born October 2nd, 1953, in Lenox Hill Hospital on the Upper East Side. At the time, my parents lived in Greenwich Village on Horatio Street. When I was 4, we moved to a housing project in Inwood, Dykeman Houses. It was the same project that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar lived in. I didn't know him, but I saw him all the time. I was a brilliant student. President of my 5th and 6th grade class. I peaked in 6th grade when I was captain of the monitor squad. Then 2 years later, hippies were invented. I read about them in the Village Voice. Then I decided not to become a physician, but to become a humble hippie and possibly a Zen monk. I graduated from the Bronx High School of Science in 1971 with a 92.8 average. Went to Cornell University where I majored in biology. I flunked out after 2 years, and finally I was free to become a working class hippie. My first job was in construction in Ithaca, New York. My boss told me, "You dig a good ditch." I was so proud. Then my girlfriend, Joan Whittier, who was descended from John Greenleaf Whittier, an American Quaker abolitionist and poet, and I hitchhiked to Florida with her cat, Carrie, named after a Joni Mitchell song. We moved to St. Petersburg. I got a job in a sheet metal factory. We moved into a boarding house where my 2 best friends were Satanists. we met a guy who had been tripping on mushrooms for 42 days in Gainesville. And based on that, we moved there. At that time, I was a very casual drug user. What saved me from being a drug addict is that I never had any money and I'm not good looking. No one ever had a reason to give me drugs. In 1978, I moved back to New York City in complete culture shock, having done yoga for 4 years in Florida. But then in 1979, I discovered the danceteria and eventually organized the first political punk benefit in New York City history. I moved in with my girlfriend on East 11th Street in 1988, joined the Unbearables, a gang of drunken writers. My daughter Sylvia was born in 1991, the same year I began running for President of the United States. And I have run each election year since then. Don't vote for me. I don't believe in third-party candidates. I'd like to read 2 more poems. This is about the New Yorker magazine. It's entitled, Motherfuckers. Those motherfuckers at the New Yorker won't publish this motherfucking poem because I used the word motherfucker too much. So I'll send it to Harper's.
That's showing up.
I'm smarter than I look. How to write a revolutionary poem. This is another poem. It's called How to Write a Revolutionary Poem. It's easy to write a revolutionary poem. You just picture yourself running down the street in your pajamas with hundreds, thousands of women and men and 8-year-old children, all in their pajamas, and everyone shouting, not words, but syllables like ya and roo. And you know, as you feel flannel flapping around your legs, that all of life is changing.
Holy shit! Godzilla! We have Godzilla. Look, it's Godzilla! Why don't we just stay here in this boat? That sounds like a stupid idea. Godzilla is now entering New York City via the Staten Island ferry bill. Meanwhile, at the Bowery Poetry Club, Zero Boy is sitting at the bar when a person who knows him from over the years but is a little drunk or stoned. Hey, Faceboy, what's up, man? No, I'm actually Zero Boy. Oh, sorry, Face. Hey, Faceboy, what's going on? Oh, no, actually, I'm Zero Boy. Hey, Faceboy, what's up? No, actually, I'm Zero Boy. Oh, sorry. Hey, Faceboy, how you doing? No, actually, I'm Zero Boy. Hey, Face, what's up, man? No, actually, I'm Zero Boy. Hey, Faceboy, what's going on? No, I'm Zero Boy. Oh, yeah. Oh, Faceboy, please don't stop. Oh, no, I'm Zero Boy. Oh. Ladies Ladies and gentlemen, the president of the Lower East Side, Mr. Faceboy. No, I'm Zero Boy. God. Actually, ladies and gentlemen, the president of the Lower East Side, Mr. Faceboy. Hello, let's have a little applause.
Oh, you again. Him again.
Oh, you are. Well, you know, it's much worse when people go, hey, Facebook, how are you doing? No, I'm sorry, I'm not a fucking greedy
You're not?
excuse for a social networking site, but I am very pleased to be here where people are actually socially networking, and very honored. Thank you, Fly, for having me. Thank you, Zero Boy, for that lovely introduction. And this is the peep that I did. I was born and raised in Greenwich Village in 1965. It makes sense to me that my earliest influences, before I could even conceive of what they were hippies, social satirists, revolutionaries, people who had been displaced, and underground artists. I attended public schools my entire life until college and was thrown out of most of them. At age 14, I was asked to leave the city entirely. I went to live with my mother's cousin and her abusive husband in a very small town called Tappan, North Dakota. It was awful. I was only supposed to be there for 3 months, but unfortunately, it was a year and 3 months. When I got back to New York City, there were only 2 schools who would take me: Seward Park High School and Simon's Rock Early College in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. Despite my sister Nancy's always invaluable advice against going to a school with an apostrophe in its name, I chose Simon's Rock. It may have been the best decision of my life. This is where I go into, like, if you're reading a brochure. Nestled gently in the Berkshire Hills, the small campus and community and the dedicated professors helped shape my rebellious spirit into something I hope has helped me to help others. At age 16, while at Simon's Rock, I began working at a home that served people with mental retardation and developmental disabilities. I continued in that field on and off for 12 years, eventually focusing on designing, developing, and implementing training programs to prevent abuse, neglect, and negligence. That was because I was abused so much myself. I've also had the pleasure and honor of working as a youth instructor at Judson Memorial Church under the supervision of Reverend Howard Moody, much of who I am is also a product of family influences. My brother, John S. Hall, has always been an inspiration to me as an artist and a writer. The books that my great-grandmother, Julia West Parker, wrote are also inspiring and treasured documents of my family history. To the extent that I am known, it's being mistaken for Zero Boy. Oh no, wait, that's wrong, I'm sorry. To the extent that I am known, it is likely due to the popularity of the open mic that I produced and hosted for 678 weeks, the majority of which was at Surf Reality. The artists that I met, collaborated with, laughed with, and cried with continue to enrich my life to this day. I met my BFF, Reverend Jen Miller, in what we have since dubbed the Art Star scene, or ASS for short. As well as Surf Reality's proprietor, Robert Pritchard. The three of us also formed the Dance Liberation Front to fight New York City's archaic and absurd cabaret laws. Yeah. In the spirit of revolutionaries such as the Merry Pranksters, we fight tyranny with humor. Yet I have never lost sight of the seriousness of the need for change in this world, and I still naively believe in the power of love. So that's my peep.
Commercial for what?
I mentioned my brother as being an inspiration to me, and he wrote this book called Daily Negations, and they are very short things. It's very similar to daily affirmations. Like, let's say you wake up and you feel crappy about yourself, you're going to read an affirmation to feel better. Let's say you wake up and you feel good about yourself, not likely in this crowd, but just assume for a second that you wake up with self-esteem. Then you would read your negation for the day. So I'm going to make this a little bit interactive and choose 2 or 3 of you if you would like to hear a daily negation of any particular day. Just raise your hand and tell me the day, and I will read your negation for that day. Yes, in the back.
August 14th.
August 14th. And I'm just curious, is that your birthday? No?
Oh, it is.
Oh, it is, because because most people do choose their birthday. This is the negation for your birthday. My sad feelings are like a stone in my stomach, sinking down, 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 and pressing on my internal organs. Life keeps getting worse and worse, and I keep showing up, but I can barely stand it, and I wonder why I try. Maybe today I will collapse under the weight of my sadness. I'm weak and helpless and sad, and tomorrow will be worse, and I will feel worse. Think about 2 more. Yes. July 8th. And again, out of curiosity, is that your birthday? It is not.
It's today.
It's today.
Oh, it is today.
Says who?
How about that? Let's see what today's negation is. When things don't go my way, I can always blame God. It was God's will, I can say. I can do this whether I believe in God or not. This may be one reason that people say God is good. All right, we'll take one more. You, sir, in the front. April 23rd. That's not today. I already figured that out on my own. It's a day of significance for you, I'm guessing. If I approach today with a negative attitude, I shouldn't be surprised if things turn out badly. Similarly, if I approach today with a positive attitude, I shouldn't be surprised if things turn out badly. As long as I'm alive, things will turn out badly. Thank you all so much.
So now, like, technology, about 15 years ago, ruined the supreme joy I had in childhood of making crank phone calls. There was nothing better than calling up, you know, we would sit out, hook up our kitchen. We had all these machines. My dad loved to cook, so, you know, turn on the fans, turn on the blenders. We'd be chopping in the back. Hello, this is Shanghai Garden. You order number 7. You order Muguga pan. You order that. We go there, and now you have to pay. Oh, I'm sorry. How'd you get this number? Oh, no. You have to pay. We're coming in the back. Oh, we coming in now. So, you know, these kind of phone calls are just kind of weirdo fun. Hello. Have you gotten the notice about your parents? I'm so sorry. Exactly. So, one day, I walked into the, it was just before Christmas, I walked into the Bowery Poetry Club. So, you know, it seeps into other parts of my life. It's, come walking in, oh, you know, where's Bob? Oh, he's in the back. So I go in the back, and if you walk in the back door there, it looks straight to the back. There was a mirror there. And I could actually see Bob in the mirror in the office. And just as we hit the, you'll remember this, Bob, I think. I'm like, no, just tell him the captain from the precinct's here. I just want to speak to him for a second about what's going. And man, I never saw Bob empty things off that desk so quick. You remember this, Bob?
Oh, yeah.
So, our next peep is Bob Holman. Please give it up for him.
Thank you, Zeros. Thank you, everybody. And especially thanks to you, Fly. That was you, Fly, not Shoe Fly, right? Just stick with the program. The art looks great. What the zines do is so incredible, and of course you as an artist of the streets are, you know, manages to make this place still sort of hospitable. It was in the late 70s that I started the New York City Poetry Calendar with a couple of friends. I mean, I was going to all these great readings all over town, but it was like you needed a passport to get from one to the other. So the idea was to get all the poets on the same page. Didn't matter if you were a Nobel Prize winner or if this was your first reading, you were still a poet. And thanks to having something on my resume, I mean, how do you prove that you're a poet? I got an actual job. It was 1977, the year Jimmy Carter started the CETA program, Comprehensive Employment and Training Act, a nationwide initiative to get the terminally unemployable to work. In New York, there was the CETA Artist Project, 350 artists from different disciplines who could work for free for community organizations. This was where I learned that being a poet wasn't entirely defined by writing poems, that there was a job for us word slingers in the heart of the citizenry, and I was good at it. I got a job at the St. Mark's Poetry Project for 6 years, met all the poets, set up the chairs, introduced 1,000 readings. Then I got the idea with Miguel Algarin to reopen the New York Poets Cafe, which had been closed for the 80s. AIDS, crack, and gentrification. Now I'm the proprietor of the Bowery Poetry Club, center of Poetry Universe. The staff is all poets. We offer a study abroad on the Bowery Poetics program, and we try to anchor the cultural history of the Bowery. We still locate ourselves across from CBGB's, even though they say it's closed. So, the rumors of this place closing are true. We will close in 10 days to do renovations here, and then reopen with a restaurant. We are hoping that it's going to be these guys who do burlesque shows and jazz music and have a nice supper theater thing, so that somebody can finally pay the rent here, because the poets just aren't drinking enough. You know, I came into this thinking that the poets would drink enough to pay the rent, and maybe it's that the prices are too high, but when you lower the prices, they may drink more, but you make less. I can't figure it out. I'm not a good at economics kind of person, but we will reopen in the fall as the Bowery Poetry Club, along with whatever restaurant it is that comes in here that can take this deal and give us free rent. That's what poets are always looking for. But meanwhile, I just want to call up a few of the peeps who have been on this stage, who aren't able to get up here physically anymore, but still hang around. I guess that we would start maybe with Thule Kupferberg. And there's going to be a party for him. When is it, Sparrow? Next week?
July 18th, Wednesday, Sidewalk Cafe, 8:30 p.m.
Okay, so everybody get over there to the sidewalk on the 18th. And then come back over here. So I think, is that a Tuesday or a Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Oh, that's the day after. On Tuesday night, the 17th, that'll be the last night here, and it's just going to be a big party, so please come by for that. Who else to mention? I guess I got to mention Bingo Gazingo, you know, who held down the Monday night readings here for a million years, and who we really, really miss. Ted Jones was here and now not, and gosh, I don't know. We could just name so many. Who's that?
Jack Michelin.
Jack Michelin. You used to wander from Finelli's, across Bleecker Street, and then make a dog leg here to walk across First Street, which he always called East Bleecker. So he would make to East Bleecker, and that's the way he would make his way to the Mars Bar. And then he would, and he wrote poems about that block and called it the Street of Dead Souls, which, if you remember when CBGB's was there, and Extra Place, that little half alley was where the trucks went in to unload the band equipment, etc. It was rat haven. It was parking lots with no cars in them. It was just empty lot madness there. It really felt like Street of Dead Souls, but nothing compared to the Street of Dead Souls it feels like with these fucking apartment buildings across the street. That really defies the theories of the Bowery. Anyway, so we'll miss you while we're closed. We'll be still hanging with Fly, and on with the show. Oh, look who's here.
So, time flies.
I don't know, how
We
long
had,
does it take to renovate a place?
McGurk's Suicide Hall across the street where people would come to actually commit suicide. A lot of times it was prostitutes. People would go for dances and get a blowjob in the little booths. You had to pay a little extra money. But then what the bartenders and the bouncers would watch, and if a woman started to kind of go like this, they'd grab her and throw her out on the street because you were responsible as the bar owner. If they die in your bar, you have a lot of heat, but if they die in the street, it's not your problem. And it was known as McGurk's Suicide Hall. That's the new buildings over there. Down that street also is, the place of dead souls. When I think about New York City and I think about when I first got here and how 2nd Avenue was so stark. Anthology Film Archives opened in 1985. I know this because I had just moved here and I was watching them fix the buildings up. And there was like one restaurant down 2nd Avenue below St. Mark's. It was really about one restaurant. And this whole neighborhood has just shifted and changed so dramatically. And now you have people who work here and what's happened is that we were always stuck in the cracks. It was always an expensive city, but now they've really squeezed it out. They said, this is Monaco. This is the place for people who are in finance, who are in television and film, and really the whole world has really shifted. We have 7 billion people. We didn't have 7 billion people 10 years ago. That's 1,000 times a million. That's 1,000 times a million. You always wonder, like, wow, like the Lower East Side, all these people appeared, and you're right, millions of little young 20-somethings running around, going to have a good time, just like you did, except when we were here as 20-somethings, you kind of had to avoid the crime and dirt and like mugging and burning and hardcore elements and blah blah blah. And a lot of people who are now here would not come around this area, but 1,000 more million people have appeared in the last 10 years. 2 times that in the last 20 years. My friend Alexis O'Hara, she says to me about a year and a half ago when there was 2 years, when there's 6.5 billion people on the planet. She says, my grandmother, when she was born, there was 2 billion people on the planet. 2 billion people. And if all matter and energy cannot be neither created nor destroyed, and we've added these 5 billion people, or 4.5 billion people during this time, does that mean each one of us is less than our grandparents? Like there's less of us in terms of matter, in terms of, who we are? And so, I know we see this shifting and changing, and it's really tough because you have these people, they're really, they're working because work gives you a certain kind of freedom. Work makes you free. Arbeits macht frei. It really makes you free. And for those of you who don't understand this saying, this is a very important saying. When you want to clean up the gypsies and you want to clean up the people who are just hanging out, not doing anything, not working, not paying rent, you have to go send them someplace to concentrate them, get them close together so that they can really realize the error of their ways. And as you get there on the train and you roll up and it's amazing accommodations, like a train that can fit 12 cows can now fit 600 people. But they roll up and you see this big sign that says, Arbeits macht frei. And so when people come to New York City, what they think is, this is the golden age now. Work makes you free. If you work really hard, you get freedom. Now as artists, we always like, oh, well, gee, it's like, shit, I don't want to really work that hard. I just want to be famous and have money, or I don't want to be famous and I don't want to have money, but I don't want to be talking about all this rent, and I don't want to be like everyone else in New York when you walk into, wow, you have an apartment as big as the Bowery Poetry Club and you pay $40? How do I kill you and get this? You don't want to feel that way anymore. You just want to feel like, you work and you're free. So you work in finance, you can work in media, and otherwise get the fuck out of New York City. And when I came to New York City, I used to, it was an intense place and scary in some ways. But, it's funny, you don't even see this anymore. Yo, 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 smoke it up, smoke it up. Yo, 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 C and D, yo, 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 yo. Right on 9th Street or A Street, just on the corner, they're gone, We were able to clear them up, clean them up. The squeegee men, they're gone. Although I did see them again, so Giuliani might have to come back and put his boot on your neck. But when I first came to New York City, one of the most amazing mics that I went to, there was an open mic going on. It was one of the few, actually, open mic, and it was every Sunday night. And that was sort of an inspiration for a lot of other open mics, including Faceboys, if I'm speaking in hand on this, but I think that I'm correct in saying this. And the inspiration was a gentleman who had a very deep voice. Welcome to the ABC No Rio Wide Open Cabaret. My name is Matthew Courtney. And he became the voice of MTV. And now you can find him down in Soho selling his art. But Matthew Courtney was the kind of guy that if you were in a play with him, you know, he would show up 7 hours late to rehearsal. He would always fuck up. But when he hit the stage, everyone would go like this. Who's that bald guy in the corner there who's, you know, obviously doesn't know his lines, but what's he doing? Oh, did you work really hard on that? Oh, good job. Who's that guy though? He was great. He had just had this quality. He had a certain quality, and he was able to say hello to people, and all kinds of people would show up to his open mic, and he really, at the time, represented suave, kind of underground, punky stuff. And although we're all poor, or not, you don't have to be poor, you can be rich, I don't care if you're rich, and you know, if you want to give some of the money to me, great. But if you don't, go over and buy the actual PEOPS book. And there's more other swag you can get from Fly, because when Fly's at the squat that she lives in and she has to take that big 5-gallon bucket after taking a dump for all week long, toss in the sewer, this money, oh, you don't put salad in your piss bucket anymore? Oh, no solids in the piss bucket. So, in any case, you know, you need money to get plumbing. And she lives in a squat, and like they have a cow that feeds them milk. They have a horse that brings them up and down 7th Street because they're all lazy. And so if you want to help her out, you give money, you know, by purchasing her stuff. Now, the reason I was talking about Matthew Courtney was Matthew Courtney was this glue that held a large scene that then became the collective unconscious, the gargoyle mécanique, which became the collective unconscious, and then surf reality, and all these little splits and out. There was one guy who used to tell stories, and he was a ranter and a fucking raver. And you always wondered, is he perverted? Probably.
Definitely.
Definitely. And last year they had a thing for ABC No Rio, and he told this story that was about Amsterdam, and it involved, you're not going to tell the story tonight, are you?
No.
Okay, I gotta hurry up, or else Bob's gonna charge her extra money.
Yeah.
So, he was a ranter, and he told this great story about Amsterdam, about, you know, zombie, or werewolves and vampires, right? That's what it was about. So, before I introduce him, if you see the movie, Let the Other One In, it's this Swedish movie about, did you see that one, David?
I'm sure I did.
It's this 12-year-old vampire lady and her little boy.
Of course.
And I say, fuck her, she's an evil, soul-sucking monster. But now, with that as an introduction, please welcome a evil, soul-sucking monster, David Huberman.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll talk over like this. This is bad. Yeah, I've been having a lot of weird things happening. Recently, you know, I go to this place called Luchow's, right? It's like, I've been going there for 15 years. So, it's a gay, transsexual bar. I've been going there, it's a Latin. I'm the only white guy that goes in there. So, and they've never said a word to me, management's never said a word to me in 15 years that I've been going there. So I walk in, and the woman has this book called Panic. And I don't even have a copy of it myself. But she's reading it, it's a gay Latino book that somehow I got a story in it and was published, right? So, and I'm the only white straight guy, well maybe, in the book, right? So she says to me, first she says in Spanish, I don't know Spanish. So then she knew, then she realized I don't know Spanish. So she says to me, I have to speak to you. So I said, what about? Because for 15 years I've been going here, she never said a word to me, you know. She says, next year, you're gonna be in our float in the gay parade. I said, wait a minute, I'm Jewish, and I'm straight. She says, you're in a Latino gay book, and you've been coming here for 15 years. You're in the gay parade in our float because you're our resident poet. I said, oh, fuck. So, I mean, that's just one of the little situations I've been getting into. All right, I want to read just a little thing of PEOPS 7 about my little bio here, which is very good. I was born in 1956, I believe, in the Bronx. We lived on the Grand Concourse near the courthouse and Executive Towers, where lots of celebrities lived. And then it became a black neighborhood, and I was the only white boy in Taft High School for 2 years. I ended up learning how to deal with the Ghetto Brothers and Sisters gang and the Black Spades. They had a nickname for me, Ghost. I consider that a positive experience. I had to learn how to manipulate a few things, but I had a good time. And at a very young age, showing no talent or interest, I said to my father, you know I'm going to be a poet. And my father, who was a concentration camp survivor, said to me, well, you're not scholarly, and I don't even think you're high school material. So I don't see how that is possible. So nothing happened, except I started sniffing gasoline and Kolm glue and paper bags. And I didn't even know the concept of getting high. It was just a thing to do that started in the Bronx. So it seemed like the natural order of things. And then I started smoking angel dust. And I was about 20 years old. It was 1976. And from age 20 to 30, I started writing some really bad stuff. Bad poetry and bad rants. Horrible stuff. And at 24 years old, I met Amy Palais. And she was a very good poet and was getting published in the East Village Eye all the time. She decided she wanted to become a junkie, and I decided I wanted to get clean and be a poet. So we kind of switched places. We had been lovers and friends, but then we were evil to each other, too. Very slowly, I developed into a poet. I went to ABC No Rio and the Norican Cafe in the 80s. I was still using drugs, and Eileen Miles kicked me out of ABC No Rio. I have no idea why. Maybe because I was a bad poet. I don't hold it against her. Believe me, I don't. At age 25, I got a job working for the United States Post Office. Well, now I'll read a poem. Oh, this is my sadomasochistic poem about open mics. And it's called Word Man. Words can never hurt you was carved on the poet's tombstone. Paragraphs that alter my vision. Words that haunt me. Sentences that confuse me. Poets and prophets. Visions. Poetry. Pump that poetry out. Poet after poet goes to the stage and tries to win the crowd's approval, but not one has the words to do it. To the audience they go. Boredom. Oh no, I'm saying it wrong. Well, okay. Yeah, well, no, I am saying it right. Boredom, the crowd cries. Still they come. Young academics with dictionary dialogues. William Burroughs type junkie impersonators. Lost generation daddies telling their story of how we won the big war. World-weary transsexuals with the secret knowledge of the inner workings of Thai hospitals. Many are called, but few are chosen. Still they come to sacrifice themselves to the gods. And the crowd keeps on yelling, boredom, you're not amusing us. One poet screams out, but my poem is about truth. My sonnet is about love. Boredom, the crowd screams in unison. Take that poet, skin him alive. Maybe that torch will induce in him real inspiration. The crowd watches in amazement. Yes, this isn't boredom. This is torture. They love it. And as they slowly skin the poet alive, out comes the poetry notebooks, and pure inspiration glows in each face. Amazing, beautiful sonnets come out of some. Others write brilliantly of political injustice, worthy to compete for the Nobel Prize. The poet screams in agony as his flesh is cut slowly, slowly, away, away. One young woman recites a poem of pure bliss during his tortured ravings. Please help me. Someone help me. Have pity on me, he screams. The young woman just laughs and then gets on her knees and prays to her voodoo god. And as the last word leaves her murmuring lips, the poet expires and the crowd yells in unison, "Word man, we love you." I have one more? I haven't read this for a long time, but it was my signature piece in the 90s, and it's called Post Office Hell.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, you four-eyed clown. What are you doing near that time clock? Box that mail, lick those stamps. Box that mail, face the case. Come on now, let's get this mail out. Box that mail, lick those stamps. Find that zip code. Make love to that case, boy. That's your wife and your life. Say after me. 1, 2, 3, 4. I joined the postal code. 5, 6, 7, 8. Throw that mail into the case. 9, 10, 11, 12. I want to get out of this place. Postcards to Madrid, postcards to Paris, postcards to London, postcards with sexy women on them. I want to be with them. I want to be in Paris. I want to be in London. I want to be in Madrid. I want to be inside a postcard. You're not boxing fast enough, Mr. Huberman, to buy my stopwatch. Mr. Huberman, you stepped off 5 minutes too much. You're hardly working, Mr. Huberman. Give that man a letter of warning, Mr. Huberman. Your attendance is horrible. You are now on 90-day restriction. Mr. Huberman, Mr. Huberman. Paper men, jelly donut boys, regular guys, postal peeps, root beer ladies. I love the post office. Paper man, a man who shuffles paper from one desk to another. Mr. Huberman, you do know that you would never be able to cut in the private industry with the little work skills that you have. Get down on your hands and knees, Mr. Huberman, and pray for the U.S. Post Office. So you deliver that mail, watch your back, don't pocket that stamp. The postal inspections are everywhere. Boredom, take a snort, boredom. Box that mail, smoke a joint, boredom. Box that mail, face the case, have a drink of Thunderbird, box that mail, do some crack.
I want to get out of this place.
I want to get out of this place. Someone's having a heart attack. Throw them in a tub, stuff them in the express mail bags. Next social security number, please. Box that mail, face the case. Mr. Huberman, you've been found sleeping, standing up. You're now suspension without pay. Mr. Huberman, what are you doing? And I told you you have no business being here. We didn't pay you, get money, you didn't ask to step off. Put that man in emergency suspension. Deliver that mail. Day after day, year after year. So you start talking to yourself, you're cracking up, you can't take it no more. Bored of talking to myself, don't want to lick those stamps anymore. Stepping off, banging out, buying a gun, talking to myself, gonna use that gun. David Berkowitz is my hero. Losing control, kill the boss, kill all the supervisors too. Losing control, do them all a favor, wipe them all out. The shop's doing never help me. Kill them too, kill. What the hell? Kill my fellow workers too. Splattered the walls with blood. This is a post office. Hell.
Yeah.
So my uncle was one of the liberators of Buchenwald, and David's dad was in Buchenwald, and so I always imagined that perhaps maybe my uncle threw like some food out to him or something. But it did clarify something for them, because my uncle said, well, you know, we gave all the prisoners food, and they went down to the town and made hay with all the German ladies because there were no German men around, and they had no food. And Dave said, oh, now I see, because my dad said he had a German girlfriend. I couldn't figure out where that came in, and hello, I'm David Huberman's dad, and here's some food, yeah. All right, so that's the end of the show, ladies and gentlemen. I want to introduce now, the reason we're here is because
Fly has created this amazing book, and hopefully you're bringing 3 or 4 home to give to your friends. Think about that $15 meal you probably bought 7 or 8 times a week. You could buy 3 of the zines or more, different little things. Please do. Let's welcome to the stage. My name is Zero Boy. You can check me out at zeroboy.com, but please welcome to the stage Fly.
Thank you. I've been giving the warning that we have to start clearing out. So thank you guys all for coming. And yeah, there's like new magazines at the table in the back. There's Peeps number 7, Peeps number 6, 5, 4, 3. And thank you all my peeps. This has been such a great show. Thank you, Zero Boy. You know, I was in the cyber circus with Zero Boy 20 years ago. 20 years ago. I was misinformation. We were in the cyber circus. So thank you, Zero Boy. Thank all you guys for coming. Thank you so much. And check the table in the back, and I'll see you out on the streets.
Chris, I want a copy of the latest groups. Yeah, definitely.
And you get a postcard of your choice.
Actually, which one are you in? Which issue were you in?
I'm not in any.
You're not in any yet? I thought they did one.
Not yet.
I guess it's in a future issue.
Hello, Trick. Thank you, sir.
There you go.
Nice.
How much are these?
They're $4 in the magazine. And you get a postcard of your choice.